exciting at the bottom end of the table and at the top as well. Before kick-off in the game between Bournemouth and Liverpool, it was the tightest the title race has ever been at this stage, with 5 points separating the top 5 teams. Obviously, Liverpool's win means that they now go 5 points clear and they're in pole position. But Manchester City have got that game in hand that could prove crucial and take them to within 2 points, just start breathing down their necks. That performance from Liverpool, coming as it did, after Manchester City's brilliant performance the weekend before, the return of Kevin De Bruyne, coming off the back almost immediately of Arsenal's 5-0 win against Crystal Palace. How important was that second-half performance in particular?
It was vitally important because Liverpool know what it's like to have Manchester City chasing them, and they've done the same, chasing Manchester City. So they know, especially without Trent, without Salah, they have to go to a Bournemouth side who are not playing badly, by the way. And they have to win. They have to win. And that is what was really good about this performance, is the way that they dug in. And obviously, Nunes getting these goals. You know, he's got 10 goals now, 10 assists. You know, people still questioning him.
First player in the Premier League to 20 goal involvements all season.
Exactly, and he's still getting stick. And what is good about what Liverpool are doing, like I say, without their two main guys, bringing in people like Bradley and them doing really, Elliott playing, you know, Curtis Jones playing, young players playing, and then getting the job done, that's how you do it. That's how you end up winning the league, if you can get through those periods and players can step up.
It's quite interesting because some of the arguments around or against Liverpool winning the league come the end of the season have been they haven't quite hit full throttle yet, or they don't seem to quite have clicked yet. That maybe in terms of the front three, they haven't quite hit on their best combination. There now seems to be a bit of a counter-argument developing, which is that is them at their best, that this kind of controlled chaos might be what their best form of attack is, that maybe it is switching up the front three, moving Darwin Núñez as they did into more central position in the second half. Yeah,
and they play quite fluidly, Liverpool's front three, or whoever joins in. They got the full-backs with Trent coming, we've seen more inside this season, but with Liverpool, the old cliches go that if you scoring goals wins your games, defence wins your leagues, and Liverpool's defence has been unbelievable. I think it's no surprise that Van Dijk's come back into form. It's solidified that, like Wrighty said, the young players coming in, stepping in, doing a job, the hunger's there, the team's there, and I think they will push City all the way. Yeah, those defensive performances, you're right, have sort of gone under the radar a little bit, but we've talked about Van Dijk being back to form, and then Konate, that partnership seems to be developing with him as well.
I mean, the talk yesterday as well was for Bournemouth. Solanke was, you know, player of the month for last month. Can they keep him quiet? And he didn't get a sniff the whole game. And again, you mentioned the rotation in the front three. You know, Jota started as a 9. Klopp made the changes at half-time, put him out in the right, and that made a big difference. And you say Nunes, I'm still, Wrighty, you probably disagree, but I'm still not sure about Nunes. I know he scored 2 yesterday and he's got good figures, but I still think he's not a natural goal scorer, if that makes sense. But if you look at his partner in Jota, he looks the most natural goal scorer maybe in the league. Everything he seems to touch turns to goal. He's a brilliant striker and a very natural finisher. I think in
Nuno's defence as a striker is that what I see with him, Shay, is he doesn't try to not score. He doesn't try. It's not like confidence or making him miss chances. He'll still go in, get a great and miss it, or he'll go in and score it. Like the one he scored there, coming off the outside. This one here with that's a good finish.
It's like he's been watching Suarez's clips or something, because he just seemed to, in that game yesterday, develop some sort of level of composure, which we've not seen yet this season.
Yeah, that's what he's like more than anything
else.
He's
disruptive. I'm with you,
What strikes me, sorry, is with them 2 finishes, he didn't have too much time to think or anything.
Exactly.
It's just sort of instinct. I think when he has more time to think, then it's not panic as such, but he doesn't get it right.
Exactly. I hear what you're saying, but then it's up to Liverpool to get him in situations where it is just one touch. Remember, we saw what Calvert-Lewin done a couple of seasons with Ancelotti, where he got him just finishing one touch. I think that what does balance it up for him is that in any game, no matter what chances he's missed, he's probably created 2 or 3 chances for his teammates.
The comparison I've heard with Núñez, not in terms of the style of football as well, is with Roberto Firmino, and having a forward in that Liverpool lineup who maybe doesn't hit the heights in terms of numbers of goals, but is still contributing significantly to what happens in terms of overall numbers of goals. Does that seem like a reasonable comparison? Not as players, but maybe in terms of contribution.
Well, because you say not as players, absolutely, because Firmino brought something totally different.
Firmino is probably one of the most underrated players in that era of Liverpool. Like what I loved about him was his defensive work. He was one of the best pressers I've seen in the Premier League in years. And I understand what you mean about Darwin Núñez is disruptive. and he causes problems, and you can't switch off against him no matter what. And I think the fact that he's unpredictable is actually making him even more difficult to play against, because defenders actually don't know what he's going to do, or don't know which Darwin Núñez is going to turn up every weekend.
And they're trying to fix that problem down the right-hand side, which is the absence of Trent Alexander-Arnold. Mo Salah away at the Africa Cup of Nations, where he's got a hamstring injury, which what we're hearing seems to be not too bad, but Liverpool would like him to come back now for treatment. And obviously he would want to represent his country should they progress in the tournament. And should he be fit enough to do it. But it's quite interesting that they've got the youth and the inexperience of Conor Bradley, who made his Premier League debut in that game against Bournemouth. And then they've had Harvey Elliott in there. But moving maybe Jota out onto the right-hand side starts to bring... And Diaz started there, I think. And so you're just starting to bring a little bit of experience onto that side of the pitch.
Comfortable on that side. I know that's Mo Salah's position. He's the king of Liverpool, Mo Salah, isn't he? But, Jota looks so comfortable when they come off the line, when they come inside the box. He just felt he was playing with a freedom. And you mentioned Conor Bradley, fellow Irishman, to get that in. But he's waiting for his chance. Premier League debut yesterday, done brilliant up that right-hand side, and especially second half, showed great support to the front line.
What did you make of his performance, and why did it impress you? I think I've read quite a bit about him. Sort of almost develop. You were watching learning in progress. I think it was Tom Gibbs in the Telegraph wrote a piece about watching the development of a player over the course of 90 minutes.
Yeah.
You saw him learn as the game went on.
I tell you what was interesting to watch is that you could see that Bournemouth they definitely targeted him, because when he was like the trigger, and that's the kind of thing, as you'll know as well, and you'll know as well, Shane, in your first game. Any more pressure than what you're already thinking, I just want to not give the ball away, is a nightmare for you. So to have a team targeting you when the ball you're the trigger must be really daunting. You could see it a couple of in the first half. Of course, how are you not going to be in that instance? You're not going to be nervous. But he got through it. And what is great about that is that they weren't losing the game. They weren't under immense pressure. But he stayed on so as he can learn through that, because he had learned so much from that game. Yeah. And in the second half, just saw him really come through. Insisted with a goal.
I got a bit of a flashback there. My Premier League debut, I was 19 at Blackburn Rovers, and made my debut, and I was down at Wimbledon. The crazy gang.
Oh my gosh!
And literally, I was in the tunnel. The tunnel at Selhurst Park. The crazy gang, they were famous for, and the shouts from Vinnie Jones and all these in fashion. Get into this young keeper. He's I can't say exactly what he said. But they do target.
But then, how did you? But then instantly.
Tim Sherwood, to be fair, he was my captain. He was laughing. Oh, don't worry about it. Just get on with it. But you're right. Conor Bradley stood up to that challenge yesterday.
Yeah, but he's got Konate and Van Dijk next to him. Do you know what I mean? And he will have developed the trust from Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp would have seen that as maybe a bit of a test, and he passed it with flying colours. Is
there potential for him to play in that role and still have Trent Alexander-Arnold in the team, maybe playing a more midfield role instead of that sort of hybrid?
I think that's a topic every week, isn't it? We think Trent should play higher up.
But now we
know that there's a solid right back.
Found a right back for Liverpool. Maybe
it'd be interesting, because Jurgen Klopp's never played him in the middle, has he? He's never played him in the middle. When you watch Trent at the moment, especially in the build-up, he kind of can pop up anywhere.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's going to work out, but I think it would be beneficial to Liverpool if they have got a right back who can do that job. So as then Trent is then his position now comes interesting, because where does he start?
But the thing is, when you start in a position where you want to end up, sometimes it can nullify your strengths. So I think that there's definitely food for thought there for Jurgen Klopp. But just quickly back to Conor Bradley, like what Klopp's done with Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones, he drip feeds them into the team. He gives them a taste of it, makes them hungry, takes them out, and I think we'll see the same happening with Conor Bradley as well. Yeah, Harvey Elliott was saying that when he came on the show a few weeks ago, and he was like, we were asking about maybe making some more Premier League appearances, and he was like, but I'm an ever-present in the Europa League squad, I'm playing all of those games again. But now he's kind of come into his own in terms of the Premier League 11 as well. Liverpool's midfield, midfield 2.0, as Jurgen Klopp calls it. I want to talk about McAllister and his performance in this game as well, because the first half, when there wasn't really a standout performance from any player on any side, he was the one who would arguably have been man of the match and could even have had a strong case for that come the end of 90 minutes. What did you think of him? Do you know what? I absolutely love him. I absolutely love him. Like, to be a number 10, in inverted commas, to then pull back and play a deeper role, you're probably laughing. I've been in that situation before where managers pulled me into the office and said, I was an offensive midfielder, pulls you back and you go, you can get on the ball more. And that's exactly what we're seeing with McAllister. He's like receiving the ball with his back to goal, he's turning and then wrapping the ball through midfield, and you're just thinking, like, this guy's unbelievable. Loved watching him play this season.
Really impressive the way he can play. And we've seen as well that he's got goals in his game. But like I feel that once he can play now, continually play in a role where he can get that space, everybody wants space. And the good players, when they've got space, they'll do stuff. They'll make sure that they hurt you with it. I think that once he gets really established in what he's doing now, because I still feel like he's still finding his way, from Brighton in Liverpool. And we're not seeing that World Cup form, even though it's easier to do it in 6 games rather than 38. But you can see, like, what you're saying there is that when he's got time on it, and he does get that ball in there, and he's so creative.
And also in the first half of the game, he was sort of picking up loose balls and going in for challenges. I think Squawka had stats that I think 9 tackles is as many as any player's made in the Premier League across a
I think Jurgen said after the game he's the best number 6 in the league, which is a big statement when you think of Rodri, Declan Rice and company. There's a few brilliant people in that position. My only question...
Definitely a manager talking about his own player.
Well, that's fair enough. But my only question would be, maybe in a few weeks, and I think it's March, they play Man City.
Yeah.
Would McAllister be okay in that on his own as a 6, or does he need somebody alongside him because of the movement and stuff?
Maybe.
That's where you see the test.
How about the recruitment, though, of bringing him in? Like, I wonder whether they brought him in to play that role, or they've played him in that role because they haven't replaced Fabinho. But tell you what a joy to watch.
Yeah, it's been very interesting in terms of what potentially Liverpool can do as we go into the end of the season. But as you said,
excited, Kelly?
Do you know what? You look at again. It's what we started with, isn't it? You start with Arsenal. Start the weekend with Arsenal beating Crystal Palace by 5-0. You look at Manchester City the weekend before with a fantastic performance, the return of Kevin De Bruyne, and Manchester City hitting that stage of the season where they could pretty much win every game between now and the end of the season, and they've all still got to play each other again. It's just really nicely set up, isn't it?
You made a good point at the start. Actually, the conversation was a bit about, Liverpool being there before with the manager and a good few of these players as well. Whereas Arsenal, I don't want to rub Wrighty up the wrong way. But Arsenal last season were in a similar position, but they hadn't been there before with this group of players.
There are more points being dropped this season, and so when you look at, say, for example, Liverpool's results against the big 6 teams, who aren't even necessarily the top 6 teams this season, you're like, well, they got a draw against Arsenal and Manchester City. In any normal title-challenging season that hasn't been over the last, 6 or 7 years since Manchester City have set these almost perfect standards, this would be... They would be really good results.
I'd be happy with that. With the Tottenham one.
Do you look maybe at the Man United draw, the draw against Chelsea, who've been struggling?
Definitely the Man United one.
Chelsea, the Tottenham result, you can kind of discount because they were down to 9 men and there were odd
VAR.
And they should, the thing is, they'll look back at those, especially the Man United games with Man United at AR this season. The Tottenham game, you can look at that one as well. And you probably look at those with the chances, especially against United. They should have won that game. And the main thing with those, with the top 6, what people talk when you talk about the top 6, you kind of have to beat them once. And the way City and Liverpool have been when they were doing their unbelievable stuff, if you don't beat them at least once, you've got no chance. When you look at that graphic there, you see, and I don't think they need to beat them with what they can do to the others. Because like Kelly rightly said, everybody's dropping points. It's not as foregone like with City. If you lose this week, City will definitely win. It felt a little bit more...
It might do that now.
Well, it
might be like that.
Do that now, but we'll see. But what's good about that is that Liverpool are top of the league and they've not beaten any of the top 6 at this stage.
Yeah. And it is interesting, as you say as well, that there are 3 teams up there who've got title-chasing experience. Both Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola have won the Premier League title, and you've got Mikel Arteta involved in that battle last season, right to the very last stages. They all know what this stage of the season has got coming.
Yeah, and Arsenal, they've got to stay with the pack. They've got to find that consistency, and players getting on the score sheet over the weekend, I think, will help them find that rhythm. But like you say, the chase is exciting. Looking at Liverpool's next fixtures, Fulham, Norwich,
Fulham
Chelsea
in the league. Yeah.
Listen, I think the form at the moment, I think they'll dispatch Chelsea. But it's that Arsenal game you're looking at and going, that's tight, and that's a big one.
And that's the game that Arsenal probably have to win as well.
Yeah. That's the one that's starting to look...
Yeah, it's looking like...
Because they're at the Emirates as well. So Arsenal have gone to Anfield, got the draw there.
Yeah.
If we're saying that an away draw is a good result, then you have to win the home game. It is so nicely set up. You're looking forward to the end of the season, Shay?
Yeah, and March as well, of course, Liverpool, Man City as well. So the big games are coming thick and fast. But again, as Izzy rightly says, if Arsenal want to stay in the pack and stay in the hunt for the title, which they clearly do, they made a big investment last summer again. they have to beat Liverpool at home in a
Yes.
few weeks.
Yes.
And we will talk about
Righty,
Arsenal
yes.
and their performance against Crystal Palace in just a few minutes. But really, I thought you were going to come in this morning like that, full five-finger wave, and then kind of going into the thing.
No.
Look, what a performance. And look, we'll talk about Crystal Palace and how poor they were and the problems that maybe lie ahead for them. But from Arsenal's point of view, it couldn't have gone much better, could it?
No, it couldn't. It's a perfect opponents for Arsenal in the current climate. It's always a bit sweet if Arsenal beat Palace for me, because Palace fans, I know what it means to them, especially in this particular time, because they were very poor. I think Arsenal would have been delighted and maybe even a bit surprised that they were so tepid in their closing down with everything. They weren't close enough to anyone. And especially an Arsenal side that are struggling to score. The guys up front
Didn't look like it, though, did they? Martinelli's doubled his tally now for the season.
He came on late to do that. But what I found and what was interesting about the game is Arsenal, yes, they got more and more confidence in the game because obviously Palace weren't giving no resistance. And then, you know, they scored with the set pieces, which is what they need to do now because they're finding it so difficult to break teams down because, like I say, it's a loss of confidence more than form with those guys. We're missing too many chances, so it was brilliant to get those chances. So then Palace would have to maybe come out a bit more, and then you can play through them. And we saw that happen with the end with Gabriel Martinelli. But it's a result that was desperately needed, Kels, desperately needed.
Yeah, just...
You know, when you look at that number of goals, I think it's 27 between a lot of them, and Saka's got 6 of them, and, you know what I mean, he hasn't scored in a few, but, like, you know, what needs to happen is just need to be, like, as he said, it's the last ball, the final ball in, the sort your feet out, the basic stuff that the top players do. Like we saw De Bruyne the other day, you know, the way in the moment does the right thing. What's happened when you look at some of the chances, and I saw it the other day, is some of the ball that comes in, you haven't sorted his feet out or he's not watched it, he's no composure. Those are the things that if they can get it right now, through winning that game and getting the confidence and the momentum from it, then the players might start taking the chances with a bit more confidence, and then Arsenal could be dangerous.
Yeah, and in the meantime, they've got those set pieces that can just get the ball rolling and get them over the line if the forwards aren't firing on all cylinders.
Well, this is why the set piece coach is so integral in what's happening at the moment.
Pay raise, right?
Yeah, because because they've recognised that teams have, like as he said, they've worked us out. They're stopping the play into something like Erdegaard. Remember, he lost form for a while. Saka, all of the guys lost form because they put pressure on our progression of the ball. And then, you know, we're still creating chances, but not taking them. And now, you know, Mikel's recognised we need to score in other ways. And that's why the set pieces are so integral now.
Yeah.
Gabriel was brilliant with the set placement. I mean, Crystal Palace, very poor. Stay in the game, they're struggling, obviously, Palace, and they concede the first 2 goals from set plays. And there wasn't even unbelievable movement and stuff. You know, it was just, you know, I jumped, I think it was Richards, and it was an easy header, really. Yeah,
and that's why, as much as Arsenal fans will have celebrated the win, it's hard to read too much into the levels of performance because of the performance of Crystal Palace. And you said, right, it's sort of bittersweet for you, isn't it?
Yeah, because you want them to do well, but you can understand the Palace fans' frustrations from now, because remember, you could go back to De Boer when he came in. They wanted to change the style. It's something that they've wanted to do for many years. And then they tried to change it. It was disastrous under him. They got Roy back. And so Roy, you know, they cannot be complaining at Roy because he's kept them in this league. You know, Roy kept them in the league, then they got rid of Roy, and then they brought Patrick, going back to we want to play, we want a young, vibrant manager, we want to change it. And then as soon as it goes wrong, they go back again. And Roy comes back to save them again. And what the problem that the Palace fans have got with them is the lack of ambition, is the lack of, like, you know, what can I say the word, Kel?
Like
to stick to their principles and what they want to try and do to progress. Stick to their beliefs. You look at Brighton and what Brighton are in Europe, in Europe playing European football. That's what Palace should be doing now, and that's what the fans are disappointed with. And when they look at the team, they look at the recruitment, they look at everything that's going on, they're not seeing no progression anywhere. And then they've gone back to Roy, unfortunately. Roy does play a pragmatic style of football, whatever kind of monies he's going to get. And so Palace fans look they feel very downhearted.
At the start of this season, they were scoring a lot. They were getting forward quite a lot. And the question mark was, will they be able to keep their defensive record while still pushing forward? And that's kind of where it's fallen apart a little bit.
Yeah, they look a little bit disjointed at the moment. Defensively, yeah, they've traditionally been quite strong. And then going forward, they've got some really exciting players. And just as Wrighty was speaking in, I was thinking to myself, well, if they've changed from Vieira back to Roy Hodgson, I'm starting to wonder, can you move Roy Hodgson into a sort of a consultancy role above a more modern manager coming in, and then you blend it all together?
And Patrick, is he? Could you imagine?
That's what I mean. And you get them both working forward, keeping the club stable, pushing them on, and then start to evolve from there. But I can understand the fans' frustration at the moment. Yeah, and it's just a tough time for Roy Hodgson.
And that's where you can see, look, you know, obviously their point tally is down per game. Their win ratio is massively down. And yes, it's a bigger sample size this time around. But in terms of goals scored, pretty much double over those 10 games compared to the 21 games of this season. But the shots isn't massively down. The XG isn't massively down. The big differences are in shots faced and the XG against. It's about what they're conceding. I mean, you look, yes, and okay, they didn't get on the score sheet, Crystal Palace, but to concede 5 and the way that they sort of fell apart at the end.
See the banner at the end as well. I think it was aimed as much at the club as it was Roy Hodgson. And I feel for Roy, because 76 years of age, let's not forget that. He could have left in the summer as a hero. You know, came in, kept him up, everyone loved him. But again, like, he's not getting any younger, no disrespect to his age, like, but at the same time, now he might get the sack, for example, same as Patrick Vieira. And Wrighty's right. Had they kept Patrick Vieira this time last year, I think they would have stayed up. They could have built on the way Patrick wanted to play and maybe bring someone Roy up above him. But now it's like they probably have a meeting today. What are we doing with Roy? Is he going to be staying to the end of the season? Is he going to go?
The saddest thing is that Roy he's answered the call for them simply because of their lack of ambition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And progress, you know, with what they should be doing. Because Izzy rightly says there, why wouldn't you, instead of bringing Roy back and sacking someone like Patrick, or bring him in with him, you know, because you're trying to build something.
What Roy's doing at the moment, isn't he bringing through one of his coaching staff? Isn't that the sort of plan of
But again, if they get rid of him,
Palace?
Kelly, then the new manager comes in, he wants his own people around him, so it's all... And the fans, we're all back to square one again. You know, there's people looking at Ezzy, there's people looking at, you know, the best players.
Elise. You look at them and the owners, they obviously, it seems to me, as soon as it starts looking like, oh my gosh, they panic. They panic and they go back to someone like Roy. You know what I mean? Who has saved them a few times now. But like, if Palace fans just want a team that's showing a bit more ambition and drive to try and do something, it's very tough for any team outside the top 6 to do anything. But Brighton have shown, West Ham have shown by winning the conference, that you can get to something. You can do something for the fans at that level. And that's all the Palace fans want when you look at that sign. They just want some form of drive, something to look forward to.
Well, this is the question then. It's 1 win in 10, so there are issues that are happening on the pitch, and there's been a real drop-off in form for Crystal Palace this season. But the question is, what, as a football club, are Crystal Palace? Are they a team that does need to be sensible and pragmatic and just make sure that they stay in the Premier League season by season? Or are they a team that are looking to build on that? I mean, you mentioned Brighton there. Brighton and Brentford have that very strong statistical model, but there are other examples in there, like West Ham that you were talking about, where, you know, it is about going and winning a European trophy, where it's about trying to progress in terms of the pitch. So can Palace be that team?
Well, every time they try, they obviously try to be that club or that progressive footballer. As soon as it starts going wrong, they go back. They go back to ground zero again. You know, they go back to Roy, unfortunately. I'm not saying he's ground zero vibe, you know what I mean, I'm knocking Roy, but they don't seem to have no conviction in the fact that, okay, we're going to try and play like this. We're going to bring players through our academy. We're going to try and recruit better. And so, you know what, we're going to play as well as we can. If we go down, we'll build from there, because we'll build our ethos and what we want to do. Then we'll come to the Premier League with a style of play, because at the moment, you still don't know what their style of play is, how they want to do it, and come back with a real plan and stick to the plan. You might go down. You may go down, like we've seen.
That's a bigger risk than just we might go down, because financially that has huge implications.
Yeah, absolutely, has huge implications, and they're paying players a lot of money. But at some stage, you're going to get banners like this then, because the fans, that's not what the fans want. The fans don't want, oh, you have to consolidate, we have to stay in here by all costs. They're not enjoying it.
So just to play devil's advocate here, say Crystal Palace say, we're going to be a progressive side, we're going to bring in a new, young, progressive manager. And if it means that we have a bad season and we end up going down, that's fine. You still don't get to keep Elise and Eze at the end of all of that, because if they get relegated, they're not players who want to be playing in the Championship.
Yeah, but exactly right, Kel. But this is why you have to have a model that's going to make you understand, like Brighton have done. You get those players and you're able to sell those players on because of recruitment, and you're able to get maybe someone from the academy, or you buy somebody that comes in and does like Basuma, you know, and Constance, you know, and that Caicedo, do that sort of stuff. You know, sell them for untold money, and then you can continue to feed in. But at some stage, you've got to take a risk. You've got to take a chance on it.
It feels that they don't want to take a risk. It feels like, obviously, Steve Parish is running the club. The investors are behind him saying, we can't risk this. And maybe look at 12 months ago and think, we brought someone fresh and give the club a lift, and we stayed in the division safely. Yeah. So they must be thinking that at the minute. And I feel sorry for Roy, because you know, he's done a brilliant job a few times for Crystal Palace now, but at the minute, they're in a real rut.
Yeah, the panic comes from the lack of preparation. And if the preparation's there and the foundations are in place, like you say, Kelly, with a progressive plan of how you want the club to look in 5-10 years' time, relegation actually, as daft as it sounds, isn't probably the worst thing if it gives you the opportunity to rebuild the squad. And obviously the likes of Eze, Elise are linked with bigger Premier League clubs, and the likelihood is that they will leave at the end of the season, if not this window. Probably likely at the end of the season now, but there's absolutely no shame in that. And just going briefly back to Brighton, their model's almost become that good that players that have left, like Caicedo, hasn't been successful yet at Chelsea. So almost if you're in the Brighton camp now, a player like who's had a few links with bigger clubs, you go, why would I go?
At the moment, yeah.
And you're right with those Brighton players that moved on. Probably Basuma's the exception to that rule. McAllister,
it's worked out for him,
But other than that, I'm not sure that there have been many who've hit the heights that they've been expected to on leaving Brighton. But it sort of comes back to the point that Shay made, that if you have investors saying, absolutely, we need to protect our Premier League income, then how then as a club, as a chairman, and then, you know, directly down the line, manager to the players, do you then take those risks if you've got investors saying, we cannot get relegated, that's not in our model?
But then what happens, Shay, is that, and you're absolutely right, because the Premier League is where you need to be, that's where all the money is, that's where it's happening. But as some said, but what you've got to weigh up is, you're going to get fans doing that. You're going to get those banners. So then all of a sudden, the fans are not happy, and when the fans are not happy, that's when they've got a real problem, because everything's going to be scrutinised from the fans' point of view now. They're looking at everybody, saying, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are we not doing this? It's going to get a lot worse for Palace before it gets better. But they, at some stage, have to understand and recognise the fact that if they do want to stick to a progressive plan, then they may have to contemplate. They might have to go down to come back.
I don't think that's good. I mean, as he says that, and you get the confidence back, and the fans are all excited next year. They're winning games in the Championship. But there's no guarantee. I was a coach in the Championship for 3 years, and it is an absolute grind. 3 days, every 3 days, a tough game, home and away. And if you look at the Championship even now, there's some massive clubs down there. No guarantee the Palace will go down, come straight back up, and then they're in a world of trouble as a club.
It's a lot of jeopardy. It's not easy.
The ideal is that you retain the status and progress, but sometimes we've seen it with clubs that they've had to get relegated to come back up again in a better state moving forward. But you're spot on, Shay, the Championship's tougher than the Premier League.
I wouldn't want to be in that boardroom making that decision.
No, but that's the thing, it is difficult. And I was reading Palace fans talking about it, and they were saying, just want them to be clear with us. Either we're a club that absolutely needs to stay in the Premier League, or we're a club that wants to be progressive and is willing to take those risks. And if you communicate with us, then we might not like it, but we'll have to accept what the situation is. But you know, but you know the Palace fans, is that, I mean, obviously you can't speak for each one individually when you've been round and done a survey, but do you feel that they're the kind of fan base that would say, we're happy to take this risk?
Yes, I think they would, simply because they've taken it up to this point with nothing to show for it. They've been great supporters down the years. I just think that they've come to a point now where they probably would, if they just got transparency from the board. I'm not saying to tell them every single thing, but let them know, listen, it's going to be another maybe 5 years. We're going to have to get something really going, and it's going to take us a little bit of time. You're going to have to stick with us. And just let them know what's going on. They will get behind them. They will.
What about Roy? What would you do, and what do you think they'll do?
I think they'll probably wait till the end of the season now. I'd hate to see them get rid of Roy now, because I couldn't see the point of that, especially somebody who's come in and saved them on so many occasions. So it's a tough one for them, but it's probably the end of the season. He deserves that.
But what would you do, and what do you think they'll do?
Listen, emotionally, I would hate to see the worst-case scenario happen with Roy staying till the end of the season and they were to be relegated. You know, that would be horrible to see. I think they're going to have an honest conversation. I think Roy, with the amount of experience he's got in the game, I'm sure he's equipped to go in and hold your hands up sometimes, and that's what good leadership is. Sometimes it's saying this isn't for me or whatever, but I do think he's got the capabilities and the repertoire to pull them out. But you've seen it, the players, the way they played at the weekend against Arsenal. Yes, Arsenal are a great side, but come on, like, you've got to put in a shift as well.
I just feel for Roy because, as I said, he could have left as a hero in the summer, and now he's in a real rut. And the powers that be at Crystal Palace will be like, we may need to make a decision. I know Roy, but this will be Roy's last job, no disrespect. And is he going to go out this way? We'd love to see him go on a roll now like he did last year when he took over, scored lots of goals and stay up. But I think it's more questions than answers, I really do. I think he's under severe pressure at the minute, and I think he will do well to see the NSC. We'd love to see him stay there and keep them up, keep them safe, but I think they'll be having talks today, tomorrow. But again, I was at Newcastle with Bobby Robson, you know, in his older years, and he felt we finished 5th and he got sacked, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Bobby was like, couldn't believe what happened, you know, and I think Roy will be the same. He'll go into a meeting with the owners. I can turn this around. You know, he has huge belief in what he's done. He's got so much coaching experience behind him, and he'll try and give his thing across. But I don't know. It might just need a spark from somewhere else, a different voice in the change room. I don't know, but it's a tough one.
Yeah, difficult decisions ahead for Crystal Palace. A difficult season ahead potentially for Crystal Palace as well.
This might sound a bit of a perverse question, not for the first time. Is it quite hard to say how well Arsenal played or not? Because Crystal Palace just did not appear, did they?
No, it was a walk in the park, wasn't it, for Arsenal? They were clinical, good set plays, and when you get ahead against a team struggling at the bottom of the league, especially at home, and it looked like they had no appetite to roll their sleeves up and get back in it, which was different to what we saw when they went to the Emirates, the Etihad. Sorry, you know, they put on a performance. They were 2-0 down. They come back and nick a draw, but never had that fight. You know, they threw the towel in my opinion, which was very disappointing for Roy Hodgson, manager I know very well. And it was a real shame for him. I felt for him yesterday because there was a lot of stick. You saw the banner there, and he took it on the chin. You know, he stood there face to fans and he had to suffer it, unfortunately. But looked like the end is near for Roy Hodgson, I would suggest.
It looks like that, doesn't it? I mean, this is his second period there. I mean, he's been managing in top-level football since 1976.
Wow.
That's not in England, that's in Europe. And
Something about that.
He's already retired once. That's
I was
Steve
born.
Parrish, Mark
That's
Price.
the sad thing.
They're thinking about it.
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, this is not all.
It's not all
Down to
Roy.
Roy.
No,
Yeah,
it's
It's
not.
not quite the opposite. A lot of the decisions taken, you know, his first period, in between this period and the last
To
one.
stand there and face that's the measure of the man. I would just like to make that point.
Yeah. Because he managed you.
He don't want to
Blackburn,
hide.
yeah.
He's part of this process. He has to go over. We saw Eze going over there and putting his hands up and apologising to the fans. It was a poor performance, but Arsenal still have to win the game, you know. And they went. They were, like I say, they were clinical, and it was to come back from a break. He couldn't have had an easier fixture than that.
As bad as Palace were, in order to Arsenal to make this as convincing as it was, they had to be very professional. They could have got sucked into the standard of the game and the standard of Palace's game. They didn't. They stuck to what they do well, and they were ruthless. Yeah. And that's what you have to do. If you want to mix it with Liverpool and City, top of the table, end of the season, you have to put 5 by Palace when they are that bad.
And also don't have the fluency and the flow of Liverpool or City. They just don't at the moment. But what they do have is a concentration on set plays and corners they work really, really hard at. I know set-piece specialist coaches are a bit of a thing these days.
Yeah.
But Arsenal have done it very well. Watch this one here. Tim, talk us through this.
Well, Gabriel's the one who's trying to get himself free, and he does well. I mean, it's impossible to mark that. Dion will tell you if your movement's good enough and the timing's right. We look at Trossard's part in this, he just holds off the defenders. Cute. Not grabbing hold of people, absolutely backing in and making sure that Anderson cannot get anywhere near Gabriel. And it's very, very
Now,
good.
you think this one might be more of a foul by White on the goalkeeper, Dion?
Yeah, listen, see White
in the middle
number
there,
four,
number 4.
yeah. There he's backing in, he's pushing away, Listen, it's a contact sport. I'm expecting more of the keeper if it's my keeper,
So you're backing away as my standing my ground?
Yes.
Well, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
If that, and I hate saying this all the time, but in my day and Tim's day, that doesn't happen because the keeper's going to pinch you or stand on your toes. He'll let you know. And when you hear the shout keepers, you get out of the way.
Yeah. Now, this is the third goal, which is a Crystal Palace corner. Will Hughes puts it in. And the minute he catches it there, Ray, look, two of them,
Yeah.
Tim, there you go.
Oh, he loved this one, Mikel, wouldn't he? Because he's looking for justification why he brought in this goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And this is typical of, I'm not that Ramsdale couldn't have done this because he could, but he very saw it very early. He saw it when he was in the air catching that ball. And Dion talked about clinical. I mean, Klein there with the defending's absolutely terrible. There's a goalkeeper. That's why I brought you in. That's why. I don't know what all the noise is about.
But again, he's one of those, Trossard's one of those players that you want at the end of that kind of run.
Yeah.
Because he is one of those players that has the mentality of, I have to score. And he, more often than not, he hits the target.
I mean, Jesus didn't score. Arsenal got 5, but Jesus didn't score. I don't think they're going to buy a striker in the next 10 days. I think we probably all will feel that.
Mm-hmm.
But wherever they end up in the league, let's say for argument's sake they end up third, which is, a reasonable possibility. You would imagine that they will buy one in the summer, wouldn't you? So however good Jesus is as a footballer, it's interesting watching him yesterday. He's doing that drifting out wide again, isn't he?
Yeah.
And very effective at it.
But that's what he does. I mean, he's not.
He's more that sort of player.
He's not a
isn't
stick on 9, is he? But for them, in order for them to win the league, Odegaard needs to start scoring again. Saka needs to get back in the goals. Trossard needs to continue with his ratio, with his games when he plays, and Martinelli. They need to share them out. Yeah. Liverpool have done it and they've won the league. When we were saying they never had a number 9, but they did it with Salah and Sadio Mane and Firmino. I think they need one. And the only way you're not going to hear the noise if you're Mikel Arteta about the centre forward is if you win the league.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people are going to say, "Why didn't you buy a centre forward?" Because you might have won the league. And you're absolutely right. They have to, in the summer, go and get one. It's impossible now, almost.
Everybody needs a number.
Well, you're paying way over the odds now. So
way over the odds. And listen,
with no guarantee.
It is going to be the quietest January we've ever seen because no one knows if they can spend any money because everyone's frightened of the FFP.
Absolutely.
OK, I mean, I suppose we'll know the importance of that decision come May. Those two teams, we'll be hoping it doesn't come down to literally a point or two in terms of staying in the Premier League. Now, look, we're going to talk about Kevin De Bruyne, who also put in the standout performance in that incredible cameo. Before we get to that game at Newcastle, I want to know from actually you two, who were your assist providers? Who was the one teammate that you could always rely on to deliver that killer pass for you to put the ball into the back of the net?
I mean, early on, Darren Ambrose was a good one, but Danny Murphy's probably the one that stands out the most because he was one of those midfield players that, even if he probably shouldn't try the pass, he'd still do it. He'd give the ball away 5-6 times, but he knows that one time he does give it to me, there's a chance of an opportunity. So, yeah, Danny Murphy for me. Even this one here, there's not even a pass there.
Nice what a pass that is.
Yeah, there's not even a pass there.
Nice finish, Steve.
But it was one of those where that game there I was desperate to play. I had a hamstring injury.
Wow.
But Sunderland were that bad, I thought, boy, I'm going to get goals here. I said to the physio, listen, just whatever you got to do, make sure I'm out there. Even if I play 45, there's a goal coming here. Yeah, so, that was Danny Murphy. He was top quality.
Who would be your go-to?
I'd probably say it's obviously my go-tos, but I can't sit here and not mention Paul Merson and Anders Limpar in my early days at Palace, but obviously Dennis Bergkamp.
Yeah, of course.
When he came, it just went, it's the passing, these kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like in the space of like 10, 15 yards.
Record breaker.
He's passing, I didn't actually do it. I didn't actually do it on that one. Yeah. Took it off at the wrong time. But like, it was a case of the move. He was so good with his vision that he'd make the pass. The pass will always be perfect.
See, I asked you about this before in terms of, do you make his mind up for me in terms of where you run, or does he make your mind up for you in terms of where he passes the ball into, in that he finds a space for you to
I think that there's a combination of both of those, but the main thing is, what I found with Bergkamp and players, like you mentioned, Danny Murphy, another really technical good player, is if they've got time, you can make the run, and you can make the run anywhere. They will get the ball to you. That's the main thing. But when you see like a Dennis running through like he was, he's going to put that ball in with the right pace, no touch. He just finishes.
You see, I'm so glad you highlighted Bergkamp because he is a beautiful footballer. And of all the thousands of magnificent players to play the game and to score goals and to thrill us and be killers in front of goal in a sporting context, you have some like De Bruyne, Bergkamp, Berbatov, who, you know, they manage the ball, they caress the ball, they finesse the ball. They're the kind of guy that if there were four of you in a telephone box, they could find space to open a newspaper up and read it. You know,
they're beautiful on the ball.
They are so beautiful on the ball. And I think football doesn't have many of them. But when you see them, you see that they stand head and shoulders above everybody else. And when De Bruyne came onto the pitch I was with some other journalists today, and we were talking about where he stands in terms of the great midfielders in over the Premier League, 30 years or so. And he stands alongside any one of them because when he comes on, he has an authority on the ball that allows him to try anything. And I can't think of too many midfielders who had a passing range that could find you wherever you are. You know,
I'd still have to throw Scholes in there. You know what I mean? But of course, De Bruyne, what he's doing. I just have to Scholes.
Why Scholes?
Because in that area, Scholes could make any pass as well. His vision was unbelievable. You know, whether it's long range passing, short range, one touch, anything, inside foot, outside of anything. You know what I mean? We're seeing a different level as well. What De Bruyne is doing with the current midfielders around, I think he's easily the best in the world. But I think that when you look at Scholes' repertoire as well, Scholes is up there. I think them two are up there as the best ever in the Premier League.
You see, one thing I don't remember is Scholes.
And Patrick Vieira.
Yeah, obviously.
That was close.
The thing is, I don't remember Scholes ever being out for a particular length of time, like 5 months.
Yeah.
Like Kevin De Bruyne did this time round.
Yeah.
And yes, he got minutes against Huddersfield in the FA Cup last weekend. But to come on and turn a game on its head, which is crying out for a lock picker.
It's because he's great. He's what, you know, people use the term great so easily, Darren, but like the great players, like you mentioned, they impact the game. Yeah. He's got great structure, but he comes on, and the great players, like again, it's 5 months, everyone's saying, when's he coming back?
Yes.
But they come back when they're right, when they're ready, and it's no surprise that someone like Kevin De Bruyne could come on and do this, because that's what he does. Yeah. That's what he's capable of doing.
And the thing is, the great players, you don't just hope they're going to change the game. They want that responsibility of changing the game. When he came on, you could see they had a free kick and everyone just stood aside and said, "There you go." Here you go. And he's like, "Yeah, that's right.
This pass here for Oscar Bob. Right.
Magnificent." And this is exactly my point. I was at the Etihad for the Manchester derby, and I saw De Bruyne put a pass. Honestly, it was like slicing through butter to find Erling Haaland at the far post, and he was able to convert it. And it's that range of passing that sets him above so many other. Look at this.
Do you know that pass is not even on? That's how good that pass is.
You know something? This is why. Look. And then what you got to understand is what the space. You can't even give him that much space. Right, in that area of the field, you've got to, if you are not, look at the amount of space Kevin De Bruyne has got. You are asking for, because you're underestimating the fact that he can do that. Listen, we've got to say something about Oscar Bob's finish. But at the same time, the accuracy, the precision of that pass is like, it's almost genius.
So
what he's
the
doing
best
there.
thing you could say about that pass? That pass is so good that the finish, which is actually exceptional, has had nowhere near the credit it deserves.
Well said.
That's his first Premier League goal for the 20-year-old.
The
that
quick
was his
feet,
special
the
moment.
composure, the tackle that he rides, the goalkeeper oncoming, all of those things, and he manages to keep his head to slot it away on his Premier League debut, the match-winning goal.
You know, big players,
fabulous,
impact games, and are capable of doing that. And like you said in the intros, he's the Man City ominous. You know, with him coming back as well, doing that. That's a goal out of nothing.
Yeah.
If you're an attacker in that team as well, every time he gets the ball, just make the run. You haven't got to worry about where the ball's going to end up. If it's the right quality, it will come exactly how you need it to come. And in that situation there, with Oscar Bob, as it drops to him, he could even have gone down because his touch was good.
Brilliant.
He got tackled, he stays on his feet. If you're Alvarez or Haaland, you're rubbing your hands together.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on the fact a little bit earlier. I mean, it's quite a notable goal that it's his 103rd assist in the Premier League, level now with Wayne Rooney, not behind Cesc Fabregas, which is amazing to think, really. But obviously, Ryan.
See that graphic, right? That's a really good example of. You know, sometimes they say you sometimes forget what somebody says, but you always remember how they make you feel, right? When you look at those 5 players, all magnificent players, and we know what they did. But De Bruyne, you remember how he makes you feel, and, you know, about the game, about when you watch him in action. Giggs was another one of those, you know, from 17 years of age. Obviously, Fabregas was a young teenager as well and did great things. But I look at De Bruyne and he's going to stand the test of time in the way he made me feel about football.
I spoke to him last season and just about his range of passing. And we have seen players of that ilk, Gerrard and Lampard, Scholesy particularly, can put it on a sixpence. But it's not something you can practice in training, is it?
What would you
delivering those passes at those angles with that pass appreciation and weight?
No, what it is it's obviously that's his ability. It's in him to do it, but then it's the work what he puts in to have the confidence to just go out and do it. You have to put the work in. You know what I mean? We've seen loads of players who are unbelievable technical footballers. You know what I mean? You only have to look at his journey. There's people who obviously did not feel that he was going to do what he's going to do or go on to do what he's done. But what he's done is he's constantly worked at what he has inside him, and now he's gone to clubs where the structure's right for him, and he can just then go and express himself and do his stuff. He's just worked on himself in being the best he can be. That's the great players owe it to all of us to do that. He's doing that because, like you say, just like Messi, they give you joy. When you watch Kevin De Bruyne play, you feel joy.
Yeah. I did the show on Saturday. Sean was with me, obviously Wrighty Jr., alongside Alan Shearer. And Sean was delighted with the way, obviously, City came back. Shearer hated it, by the way.
Can I say a very quick story about De Bruyne? I interviewed him ahead of the Champions League final in May. And he told me this story about how when he was a kid, he would tear up his mum and dad's garden, when he was practicing with the ball. So, because I'd asked him, how come you're so good with your left foot? He said, when I was tearing up the garden, wrecking my mum and dad's flower pots and beds and stuff, they said, hit with your left foot. Because they didn't think he would make that much mess, you know, with his left foot. And he turns into be a genius.
Wow.
With left foot as well as his right.
Exactly. Ronnie O'Sullivan.
What that means is City have now won the last 6 in all competitions. I mean, it's almost as if the Club World Cup never really happened. And what is also notable is in 2 of the last 3 Premier League games they've come back to, they've had to come from behind to win. So the mentality is still there, their strength and fortitude is there. But how ominous is KDB's return in terms of the title race generally?
I made them favourites before the season started, and now that he's come back in the form that he's come back, and Haaland still to come back as well, when you put them two together, and Alvarez, to be fair to him, has stepped up while he's been out.
Yes.
They've got no weaknesses. They've got options all over the pitch, with it's Doku and Grealish or Foden on that side as well. We've got Bernardo Silva. They've got so many options that it doesn't matter what 11 he puts out. They all know their roles, they all know their responsibilities, and they all play 10 out of 10. How you go against it, I don't know. You have to be brave to go and get something from them, but having Haaland, having De Bruyne back and Haaland, again, just tips it even further in their favour. And it doesn't really matter how many points behind they are. With this amount of games left, I expect them to put a run together.
You know something? It's like, watching Game of Thrones.
We're talking about this.
Yeah, it's like you're watching Man City and you're just waiting for the White Walkers because you're looking at them, and like you said in the thing, I'm just thinking about it now because I've been watching it, but they are coming. They are coming, and it's scary. Because like Kevin De Bruyne is doing that, and then it's just as Darren just said, and Erling Haaland's got, and I thought to myself, Erling Haaland. It's so ominous.
Haaland and KDB, we saw what that pairing did last season. They've been on the pitch together this season for 20 minutes.
Wow. They're going to come and want to make up for lost time because 6 games in all competitions, unbeaten. We know that they've got that 10, 12, 15 game streak in them. Yeah. You know what I mean? You have to look at you have to look at the Arsenal, Liverpool, the rest of the teams, Villa. How do you stay with that? It's coming. How do you stay with it? You're really stretched just to try and hang in there.
And what does it do to the rest of that City dressing room? Knowing that Kevin is back.
We can see the impact on the pitch because straight away when he came on, Rodri, for me, is the best player in that position in the world. Every time he got the ball, where's KDB? Where is he? Give it to him. And there was a couple of times where he made the overlap and he made cutbacks, right option, right weight, got blocked. He's just a top player that just commands respect. So all of a sudden now, with him being there, you have to say now, going forward, they're the favourites. And even though Liverpool will try and stay with them, we've seen Liverpool get to, 96 points and still not win the league. Yeah. It might be one of those scenarios again.
Yeah. It was the way in which City recorded that win at St James's Park from 2-1 down at half-time to then go and win it in such dramatic circumstances. They've got a 13-day break from that fixture. until the next game. And that's an FA Cup against Spurs. It's the perfect recharge, isn't it? To kind of just everybody consolidate where they're at as they try and go for what would be a record-breaking 4th league title in a row, Ian.
Yes, and the thing is that we saw earlier on in the season, Pep do his rally the fans, what's wrong with everybody? What's wrong with you guys? Are you not entertained? You know, he done it, and it's worked again. You know what I mean? You look at them, and like the game, it's an FA Cup game, so it's even got more time to bed De Bruyne in, and to get Erling Haaland back, and then they're home to Burnley. You know, you just look at the way it's starting to pan out for them, and it's just they're getting ready to just do what they do, get into like win mode, and you know it's up to people to try and catch them.
Looking at that fixture list, only Spurs. that's the only fixture I think to myself they would be able to hold their own against them. They don't have a good record away to Tottenham,
no.
And so that could be the one. But apart from that, all the rest of them they could steamroll. Erling Haaland's been missing for 9 games. People forget that, and you talk about this run that they're on and the way that they're steamrolled teams, and most tellingly the way that they've come from behind, because I was fancying Newcastle when they went 2-0 at St James's Park, where they're normally strong, where not too many teams have beaten them in the Premier League so far this season. Yeah. And yet the character, when you look at that title race now, the top 4, yes, mathematically Villa are in there, yes, Spurs are in there mathematically, but when you actually look at the quality in there, the capability to change games when the odds are against you, it's really only the top 2.
You know, the thing is as well, with Erling Haaland, watching his team still just beating teams, that will make him want to come back and prove I'm make sure I'm part of the team, because they can win without him.
Is that what happens when you're a striker?
Absolutely.
And you see the team?
Yeah. When you are a striker and you're you're injured, you see,
it's not as well.
You're injured. Anyone who says that you want the team to do well, do you want your striking guy to go and score the goals for them to do well? No. You want someone else to score the goals, so as when you come back, you could get your place back. You see, Erling Haaland now knows, and he's watching the team, and he's got the kind of manager, he knows, okay, you're going to be on the bench because these guys are doing okay. So Erling Haaland's going to come back, Manish, wanting to prove something more, like he needs to.
Does every striker have that element of selfishness about them?
Yeah, of course. That's right. I said there. You always want your team to do well, but whoever's playing in your position, you're like, hope he doesn't get one. You just hope one of the midfield players can pop up with a goal or something. Do you know what I mean? It's a really weird situation because you're watching the game kind of on tenterhooks, thinking.
And you don't dislike them.
No, you don't.
You don't. Yeah. But this is the thing. You don't dislike them. It's more a case of they're taking your place. You know what I mean? And if you're out of the team, what's going to happen to you? You're just worried about that. But at the same time, you know, it's like, you know, you do play and you do really well. They take you off and then the guy comes on, scores. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm having a nightmare.
Well, look, we're going to take a quick break on the programme. When we come back, and talking off strikers and forwards.
Absolutely perfect playing conditions. I'm Derek Ray, joined for commentary by former England international Lee Dixon. And if the game is as enticing on the pitch as it looks on paper, we're not going to be disappointed. It's Fleetwood Town versus Arsenal.
I'm excited, Derek. Really looking forward to this game. Come on, bring it on.
And this is the Arsenal starting 11. Thomas Partey starts with Granit Xhaka in the centre of the pitch. And leading the line today, Alexandre Lacazette. Oh, big chance! An Arsenal corner.
Well, that's the frustration of a manager right there, watching his players come so close and being powerless to help.
Just unable to take advantage of that developing situation. Might be a chance here. It's got to be. And a goal! Just what the fans wanted to see. The ideal way to begin.
Well, let's see the replay and look at the pace at which the counter-attack happens. And that eventually leads to what amounts to a simple task of rounding the goalkeeper. 2v1. There's only one winner.
So the game restarted by Arsenal. A wake-up call for the Arsenal players, perhaps. Can they construct a response?
And they need to get tighter. Oh, in with a chance. Oh, he's missed it.
Oh, goal behind Derek, and he's missed. It's a big miss.
Losing possession here. Now, do they mean business on this occasion? Well, it could be on for him here. Lacazette! Oh, there it is! A back-and-forth sort of match. Now they're level again. The lead lasted nearly minutes.
Well, here's the replay. He's done really well to get his head up and pick out a teammate. And a 2v1 is never fair. To be honest with you, the keeper's got no chance to stop this. It's lovely football.
So, a level contest, 1-1.